onto the pasties. We're going to be starting with our 4½ cups of flour and our 1 teaspoon salt, and we're going to whisk that to get that salt nice and dispersed throughout our flour. Then we're going to be taking our shortening here in just a minute, and we're going to add that in small little pieces throughout the flour so that when we start cutting, it's going to be already mixed through a little bit. And as we're going to see, this is a technique. It's called cutting in the shortening. Normally you'll use a pastry blender for this, but this is an old technique in case you don't have that, where you could just use knives. And you want to cut that shortening in so that it's well dispersed throughout our flour. And there we go. That was sped up. All right, so we've got our ice water. You want this very cold. We're going to make a hole in the middle of our flour and shortening mixture. Pour that water in, and then we're going to stir it together as quickly as we can. And then we're going to form our dough by just mixing, mixing, mixing. Start with your spoon, then with your hands, and continue to mix, continue to mix, continue to mix, until you get a ball of dough that is not sticky. And then we're gonna set that off to the side, and we're gonna let it sit while we prepare our filling. So that is what your dough should look like right here. Perfect. Look at that. Gorgeous ball of dough. All right, and on to the filling. So here's our filling. We're going to start with our meats, and I measured them out. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it is going to give you sort of a more accurate amount of the filling. All right, and then this is the bouillon. I use Better Than Bouillon. It's the same as using cubes, so you're going to dissolve that in hot water. So now that we've got our ingredients prepared, we're going to be going ahead and mixing them together. So first we're going to start off with our ½ cup of rutabaga. Then we've got our 1 cube of beef bouillon, or the equivalent, in a ½ cup of hot water. It doesn't need to be boiling necessarily, but it needs to be close. And then we've got our tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon, 1½ teaspoons of MSG. Now obviously if you have concerns about MSG, you can leave that out, replace it with salt. That's perfectly acceptable, but it is going to change the flavor a bit. Then we've got a teaspoon of ground black pepper, 2 carrots shredded. Depending on how much you like carrot, you can choose some very large carrots or smaller carrots. That's up to you. I chose, the ones I used were pretty moderately sized. It's kind of in the middle. Not a huge fan of carrot, but I don't hate it either, so. Alright, then you've got 5½ cups of potatoes. I know the recipe says thinly sliced. I like diced or cubed potatoes better. That's a preference thing, so you just do what you would prefer. And then we've got our 1 yellow onion. Again, if you really like onion, you can get a huge onion. I had, again, a kind of a middle of the road onion. So, and then that's all of our ingredients. Then we're just going to stir that up, and we want to get a really even mixture so we're not getting bites that are just meat or bites that are just our vegetables. So it is going to be a little while mixing that all together because there is a lot there, but we will use all of it. All right, now you're going to take your dough, you're going to split your dough into 8 equal-sized balls, and then you're just going to roll it out, and you want about 8 inches in diameter on your dough, so, and about 1/4 inch thick. So I had already made one as a practice run, and this is my second one. So yeah, and then you're going to get 1½ cups of your mixture. Put that right onto your dough on 1/2, and then you're going to kind of flatten it out, make it just like that, so that you can see when you fold it over, you get that nice crescent shape. Okay, and then you're going to pinch the sides to close the pasty so that your ingredients don't leak out as it cooks. Now, one thing These are pretty dry, so it's hard to mess them up. They're not really there's not liquid inside, so it's not really going to leak out too much. So you don't have to get these perfect, just as well as you can. And just like you saw there, kind of flatten it out. Alright, then once you finish that, you're going to take a fork or whatever your preferred tool is, and you're going to crimp the edges to give it that nice detailed look on the outside. And then you're just going to cut a few slits in the top so that you don't have steam in there blowing up your pasty. And put it on your tray. And then this step's not in the recipe, this is a preference thing. I like egg wash on my pastries, so I put egg wash on it. You could use butter or you could leave it plain, either way.